The specifics? Well, let me tell you about them. Gender bias can be exhibited in a classroom through a variety of ways, such as number 1, unconsciously favoring the male population in the class. This can be done by constantly calling on male pupils in the class to answer questions or even write things on the board, or to respond to any other requests from you, the teacher. Secondly, gender bias can be exhibited in the classroom through a variety of ways such as referring or crediting a female's findings back to a male's answers or findings. For example, say Susie here in my classroom answers a question correctly, but instead of accepting or receiving just praise for her work or discovery, her works are credited back to a male's findings or answers. That dialogue would go something like this. Thanks, Susie. Your answers are correct, but just like John said yesterday, blah blah blah. I think you get the idea. Thirdly, gender bias can be exhibited in the classroom through teaching with an androcentric pedagogy. Androcentric simply means male-dominated or masculine interest involved. Again, thirdly, teaching with an androcentric pedagogy. This androcentric pedagogy also contributes to the decrease in female students' confidence due to the male-oriented atmosphere in some classes. For example, ladies and gentlemen, when you teach using a particular style or method, know whether it favors one sex over the other. Educational impact of this topic? Well, to understand gender biases is to be aware of certain things. Especially as a teacher, this allows the teacher the knowledge of knowing that more wait time, simply put, allows the entire class, all pupils in the class, to respond to a question or an activity. Secondly, to understand gender bias allows the teacher to become more aware of who he or she is choosing to answer questions or respond to activities. And thirdly, it allows the teacher different ways to encourage the children's discovery regarding problem solving. Culturally responsive teaching strategies. Well, one way to defeat gender bias in a classroom is to teach equally to males and females in a classroom. And secondly, provide adequate wait times for responses to questions and activities. Thirdly, model instructions for students in a variety of ways so that your examples are more inclusive and meet all of the needs in the classroom. For example, drawing on storyboards or doing poetry or inventing games in lieu of administering just written exams. Statistics. Here are the stats.
Is it still a problem? Yeah, it is. We still have issues. Let me give you a few statistics I find particularly nauseating. Girls 8 to 12 years old spend $500 million on cosmetic creams and beauty products. Among the top 3 products they buy is one that has the name Britney Spears. So you think things are changing? Hello? 1/3 of students elementary to high school believe and this is today, believe the most important thing for a girl to do when she grows up is get married and have kids. So they don't talk about boys' marital status. University of Michigan study recently discovered that, not surprisingly, parents are still buying more science toys, more math toys, and actively engaging with those toys with their sons rather than their daughters. So the home environment is still very much, do I have to tell you that? Has anyone here been to a Toys R Us recently? You have pink aisles, you have blue aisles. If you want to visit the 1950s, that would be a good place to start. Testing. Girls start out ahead of boys in school. They get higher grades throughout school. And then come those key tests that make your stomachs churn. You know the ones I'm talking about? The one with the alphabet? SAT, ACT, LSAT, MCATs, GMATs. Males outperform females on those tests, even though females are doing better in school. That's kind of worth investigating, isn't it? And you've lately heard that the problem is solved because women are now the majority of students in college. Well, let me get a little bit behind that statistic. First of all, I think it's amazing that after 300, almost 400 years of higher education, in which females were completely left out of college or were the minority, attention to gender happens in the last 20 years when females became the majority, because that's a recent development. Yet colleges are incredibly stereotyped in terms of disciplines, careers, teaching, social work, nursing. That's where you find the women.
And lastly, I leave you with this. Is gender bias in the classroom a problem of the past? Hardly. But through education, we as teachers can become aware of hidden issues and use this knowledge to teach more effectively.